What if I told you that most of the meat sauce pastas that are out there, you know, the ragus, the bolognese, are being done wrong? Maybe there's a better way we could be doing this. Slowly braised, succulent, fatty, melt in your mouth short rib should have always been a part of the Ragu game. You can do it, anyone can do it, I believe in you, so let's make it. First, we're gonna need to make our ragu. Then we'll cook our pasta, combine it all, and finish it in a way that will change your pasta game forever. Ragu. I actually don't like a lot of tomato in my ragu. This has more than I would typically put. You have two options. You could do 1 pound of fresh grape tomatoes right here, or you could even do 1 pound of grape tomatoes that are canned and already peeled. But for these, we're gonna char them. Blowtorch, or a broiler, which takes a lot longer. We're doing this to intensify flavor, but we're also doing it to help kind of peel the skins off a little bit. So you're gonna char them all over. It's okay if some of the skins are left on. You could skip this step if you really wanted to, but I prefer to do it. Now, at this stage, you could just toss them in. You could have some charred bits in there. That'll actually add flavor, and you'll see the flecks of charred stuff. The other option is to use a little paper towel, take a handful of tomatoes, and just lightly rub them together. In that paper towel, kind of squirt them out. You can also hand peel them and get those little skins off. If there's little bits of skin, that's totally fine. Skinning them will just make them that much more luxurious. Oh, they smell amazing. Now they're gonna add a little bit of freshly lathed mahogany smokiness, and they're peeled, a little more cohesive, right? It's time to make this ragu. Ground beef is nice. I prefer it in like a ground beef kind of bolognese, but if I'm making ragu, I want this to be luscious. I want it to be sensual. Well, first, a carrot. We're essentially making a sofrito. Cut that into like 3-inch segments, and I want this finely diced, or close to almost a brunoise. So we're gonna cut that into little planks. You're gonna take those planks, stack them on top of each other nicely, and then julienne them the same size, like that. Okay, take your julienne veg, line it up nicely, and then just run your knife through to get a very fine dice. I know this is a bit of a but hear me out. It's going to melt beautifully into a stunning sauce. So you'll do that with 3 to 4 large carrots, and do the same thing with some celery, which you'll cut into segments. Exact same thing, get it lined up. Same exact size. You'll do that with about 4 ribs of celery. And then same thing with 1 large onion or 2 onions if it's small. Cut the top off the onion, split the onion in half, starting at the root, but leave the root attached for this one. You peel that outer layer. Usually I'll peel the first layer of onion because it tends to be kind of like harsh and not really very tasty or edible. And then you'll take that onion and then make very close incisions all the way along the length, making these little fingers. And then you'll cut on the bottom third, and then the top third, and then down evenly across your whole onion. Fine dice. Last one is garlic. 3 cloves, finely chopped. Garlic is actually very easy to finely chop. A lot of people will just start going. Don't do that. You're 90% of the way there. Flat side of the knife down, palm of your hand, smash. Now all you really need to do at this stage is just run your knife through a few times, okay? So once, I've literally only ran my knife through once, and look at it, it's almost there. Now you just do that a few more times, one way, and then gather it all back up, then the other way. So easy, I don't even need to look at it. I would just recommend looking at it in general. I don't want to be held liable for anything you might do to yourself. That's done. All right, onto the stove. We have 1.5 pounds of short rib and 1 pound of chuck roast. You can interchange that, right? You could do all short rib, all chuck roast. You could add a little beef chicken, but keep it to around 2.5, 3 pounds of meat, no more than that. So on these, kosher salt, generously all over your beef. Just like steak, it's almost impossible to overseason these bad boys. Little pepper, okay, we'll get the other side in a second. Now, pot, medium high heat, vegetable oil, high heat, cooking oil, can be avocado oil. Coat the bottom, 2 to 3 tablespoons. Now, flip these. I'm gonna season these on all sides with salt and pepper. I'm seasoning high in the air because that gets maximum surface area coverage. If you season really close, it's way too concentrated. High will help you spread out that salt. Pepper, another pepper mill technique. Instead of cranking it like this, you can toss the pepper. It makes a little bit of a mess, but it'll spread the pepper out. Now, for the rest of it, just toss in that remaining salt. Don't worry about over seasoning. It's almost impossible in this. I've actually never done it. Now, once that's ripping hot and nearly smoking, you're gonna take your beef and in batches, sear it, okay? Don't sear it all at once if you can't fit it all in there. If you overcrowd the pan, you won't get good browning. Good browning is very crucial here. So press it down nicely. Oh, I managed to fit it all in there. That does not normally happen. Now, we're not looking to cook these, we're just looking to get color. So around 2 minutes per side. Honestly, if you just sear 2 sides, that's good enough. You don't need to sear all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 sides. Look at that. That only took a minute. Look at that beautiful color. That is a good browning, okay? Don't skimp on that. I hate it when I see people braising and they flip over gray meat. No, not acceptable. Searing the bones, not a necessity. Now I'm gonna take them all out. Once they're seared, put them to the side, reduce my heat to medium. Got a little fond going on. That's Flavor Town, baby. Now, if there's not enough oil in there, you can always add a touch more. I'm just gonna add like another tablespoon. We're gonna add our onion, carrot, celery, and garlic. Immediately season and taste with a little bit of salt just to draw out that moisture. Stir that beautiful sofrito. Oh, sofrito doesn't have garlic. It does have garlic. I want garlic in mine. How about that? Oh God, smells unreal, dude. The second you have all that beef fat and the beautiful carrot and the onion and the celery, somehow, I don't know what it is, but it just tells you you have protection. You have a roof over your head. It's cold outside. You smell this emanating through your house. You have smooth jazz playing. The wife's on the couch or the dog. Maybe you're single. Maybe you don't have a wife. Once the veg is sweated for about 2 minutes and it's a little bit softened up, we're then going to add tomato paste, 2 tablespoons in, and a secret ingredient, 2 tablespoons of a really nice harissa. It's spicy, it's rich. Keep that heat on medium, and we're gonna stir that in. We're gonna toast that, caramelize that tomato paste and harissa. It's gonna dye everything a beautiful, luscious red. Dude, now we're getting chefy up in here. You're gonna feel like a chef when you're doing this. Once this starts to stick to the bottom of the pan, which should happen pretty quickly, like somewhere around the 2-minute marker, it's charring a little bit. Then you can add your beautiful grape tomatoes. Now you can add them straight in as is. You can also lightly crush them with your hands just to get them a little broken down. Just a light crushing. They're gonna get eviscerated by braising anyway. Those get dumped in. Stir those in. Very nice. Dude, you can smell this. You be taking your goddamn pants off. Now next, turn that heat up to high. You're gonna add 2 cups of a red wine. This could be really any red wine, but try to avoid a sweet one. Look for dry red wines, like a Bordeaux. Just pick a red wine and put it in. Stir it in. Let that come to a boil. Should immediately boil if your pan is hot enough. Now, immediately follow that with 2.5 cups of beef stock, a nice one, and 2 tablespoons, I know this is weird, of balsamic vinegar. Specifically balsamic, you can do a reduction also, but this is just gonna add a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of tartness, because this is very rich. God damn, I love balsamic vinegar. It's very underappreciated, by the way. So stir that. Make sure to scrape up any brown bits at the bottom. High heat, bring it to a boil. Now, once that's at a boil, I'm gonna drop that down to low heat, bring it to a simmer, and we're gonna nestle in our beautiful beef nicely with the short rib due bone side down. Trust me on that. Now, before we put a lid on this, I'm gonna make a little bouquet garni. We have nice little handful of thyme. You know, honestly, this is like 15 sprigs. It's just a nice little bundle. 2 bay leaves. You're gonna press those together, and you're gonna take some kitchen twine and then just wrap it around to mold them together. You don't have to do this. It's just gonna make it easier to take it out, okay? Tie it off tightly. Make a little knot. That's gonna go in, nestle it in. Now, once that comes back up to a simmer, you're gonna pop a lid on. And this is gonna go into a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 3 to 3.5 hours, or until that meat is so fork tender, you could eat it with no teeth. Oh yeah, woo! It comes out the oven, ready for some loving. Oh, look at this, dude. Thank you, God. I don't even know who to thank. I'm gonna thank me. And Hanes also, because Hanes helped a lot. What was once the braising liquid has reduced down into a luscious, dark sauce that's now also had some of the flavor of that beef leached into it. So it's super, super, super flavorful. All the vegetables in there have softened to basically a puree-like consistency. So once we mix this all together, it's gonna become a smooth sauce. But first, you're gonna carefully remove your meat, trying to leave as much veg in there as possible. And you know it's done when your meat like basically jiggles, right? If it jiggles and it falls apart easily, if you can press it and it starts to fall apart, it's done. I'm literally just slapping it and it's falling apart. So you want it super tender basically. So carefully remove all this. Uh-oh. Chuck roast. Look at this juicy little guy. Come on, dude. Take my little herb garden out of there. All this dark, reduced sauce, vegetables, the cherry tomatoes are almost completely eviscerated. Run your spatula through here. All this beautiful vegetable will start to kind of puree. That's good, that's what you want. Okay, you can take a masher and do that, or you can leave it in chunks like this. I tend to leave it in chunks. Just be sure to remove all of your herbs, because I just noticed that I left the bay leaves in there and you don't want to bite into that. To the bowl. And you might think, oh, I need 2 forks to shred this. You could shred this with a spoon. So we're gonna plop that into a bowl, all of our meat, Obviously take the bone out of the short rib. I will point out the underside of the short rib has this sort of gelatinous membrane. I would remove that. You can suck on it, you can eat it. I don't like biting into that after the sauce has been tossed together, and I think most people will be like, ew, what is that? So just take it out. Now, this is really hot. You can put gloves on and start shredding it if your hands can handle the heat. If it's too hot, I'll show you what to do. But generally, first of all, inspect your meat. Make sure your meat is nice and luscious, right? Luscious meat, when you squeeze it, will fall apart. That will probably burn most people. We're gonna shred, shred, shred. Okay, now, if it's hurting your hand, you can take a big spoon. This is slotted, it doesn't matter if it's slotted or not. Take a big spoon. I'm kind of pressing and twisting, right? Unwinding all that soft meat, unwinding it from the fibers. I mean, it's already 90% of the way there. It depends on how fine you wanna go. If you want it more chunky, make it more chunky, but I like mine fine. Get in there with my hands. I like to really get in there so that it's properly emulsified and juicy and combined with its own fat. Once you can form like a patty with it, like a ball, you're probably shredded enough. You could take it farther than that, but it's not necessary. That is your beautifully braised beef. Back to the pot. Get that beautiful caramelized sauce in there. Add your shredded meat back, all of it, or just a little bit if you want. You can also reserve some to the side to top your finished pasta. Just mix that in there with the sauce. Rehydrate all that beef. Now at this stage, if it reduced a little too much, you can add a little bit more beef broth, about 2 or 3 tablespoons at a time until it's the consistency you want. But I like mine relatively thick, and it's gonna be very meaty. So we mix all that together. Again, if it's a little too dry, you can add a small ladle full of beef broth or a little bit of tomato passata, rehydrate it however you like, but it's pretty much where it's at, assuming it reduced properly. Depends on the temperature of your oven. Some ovens run a little hotter and reduce a little faster. Make sure to taste it and adjust salt levels as necessary. Always before you serve, please. Check the salt levels. You worked really hard on this, okay? Make sure it's as perfect as possible. A little salt, a little peppy. Make sure that it is seasoned to the maximum. So we're gonna try this, make sure that we're happy with that. A little bit of salt. Oh, it's so good though. Okay, one more. She's good, I'm happy. Pasta, pick something nice. You know, you can do a spaghetti, you could do a linguine. I prefer pappardelle. I've noticed that it's the most ideal pasta for this kind of sauce. It's very meaty and ultra thick. So we have our large pot of boiling water. We're gonna salt that very generously, almost as salty as the ocean. Yes, I also taste my pasta water. I'd recommend you do the same. Give it a little stir, and just taste a tiny bit. Can you taste the salt? Probably not, because I didn't taste a lick of salt. Try it again. There we go. Salty, almost as salty as the ocean. That's what you want, especially for a pasta like this. Now, you want about 1 pound of pasta. That'll serve roughly 4 people pretty generously. The sauce makes enough for 8. Use half, freeze the other half. Or double the pasta to 2 pounds if you're serving 8 people all at once. Pasta's gonna go in. Cook according to package directions. And I want it al dente, okay? Now while that's boiling, Pecorino Romano. You can also use Parmigiano, but I think Pecorino goes way better with this. Saltier, a little bit more funky. Get yourself a box grater. Not this side, not this side, and not this side, but this weird side. I don't know what this is called, but this is gonna get you that Pecorino dust, and that's what you want. Get her kind of going on there, you know? Be really careful, because it does hurt really bad if you end up grating your hand. Get a nice dry crumble of your beautiful pecorino. As much as you want, really. I mean, normally I'll end up grating like probably close to a cup if I'm serving like 4-ish people. Now, once that's al dente, cut off the heat. And before you strain this, reserve a little bit of pasta water, okay? You're gonna wanna reserve probably about a half cup to a cup. And then I'm gonna strain it. Shake off the excess water, back into our pot. Take a nice chunk of your ragu in, along with its juices, half of it per pound of pasta, okay? Touch of pecorino, about a cup to 2 cups of fresh basil leaves, lightly torn, toss them right in, literally just go directly in there. And then we're going to carefully toss that together with a little bit of pasta water to loosen and emulsify. Add a touch more pecorino, make it into a nice, lovely sauce. A little more pasta water. The pasta water here is so crucial, guys. Okay, pasta water and cheese. A little bit more. Look at this, beautiful, saucy, cheesy. Your pasta and your sauce are done. It's time to plate. Make sure to add a little bit of your voluptuous ragu right on top. Sprinkle on some of your fresh grated pecorino. Add fresh cracked black pepper. And lastly, a little drizzle of a balsamic reduction or balsamic vinegar over your ragu dish. Let's taste. Oh! I promise you, any ground beef ragu competing with this will lose. All that unctuousness of flavor that's been developing for hours has now coated every little beautiful strand of pasta with a luscious, juicy, also a little bit rich and velvety sauce. But then you have that fatty shredded, tender, succulent meat, kind of enrobing it just as much as the sauce is, the saltiness from the pecorino, the chew obviously from the pasta. I know it's a little bit Neanderthalish to put some balsamic vinegar on this, but I like it. And then a light little bit of herbaceousness and freshness from that fresh basil. I know it's a lot of work to make that sauce, but the beauty of that sauce is it makes a lot, and you can freeze it, you can keep it in your fridge, you can put it over rice. So this is a perfect make ahead. It's one of my favorite pasta dishes of all time. Minimal tomato, it's not coated in red sauce. It's almost a little bit more orangey, and that's how I like it. I want to eat this whole thing so bad. That said, if you want the recipe, don't forget the link is in the description. Love you so much. Subscribe if you want more of these recipes. We're going to be posting much more. We're working on posting every week, which is coming very soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Subscribe. I love you so much. See you later. Bye.